All right, so I will go ahead and get started. So thank you all for joining us today. We're very excited to have you here. You are here for the information session for one of our first US-based global education programs, exploring medical care delivery in circumpolar communities, which will travel to Alaska this summer. We are going to talk a little bit about the program, and also do some introductions. So I'll start. My name is Jenny Bickley, and I'm the Global Education Specialist out of the Office of International Affairs. So I work with the College of Medicine and other colleges around campus to help facilitate the education abroad programs. And I'll let my co-presenters here introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about themselves.
Hello, I'm Lorraine Wallace. I'm faculty member in the College of Medicine, and we're very excited about this first, as Jenny mentioned, one of the very first domestic global education programs that Ohio State's offering. So I will be co-teaching and co-leading this program and course in July. So I'll let my colleague Stephen Musidis introduce himself.
Hello, everybody, and Happy New Year, and welcome to the spring semester. So as Dr. Wallace mentioned, I'm Stephen Musidis, and I oversee the biomedical science undergraduate major in the College of Medicine, and I'm also a STEP faculty mentor. So I'll mention it here at the front. If any of you are currently in STEP, or maybe you're a junior and you haven't yet got to spend your STEP funds, this particular program to Alaska would be a no-brainer for STEP to approve. So we're excited about this and looking at doing something domestic in the hopes of just providing a new opportunity for students and hopefully traveling with COVID, but remaining in the US is appealing to people. So thanks for joining us.
So we are going to talk a little bit today about the program. I'll start by saying that we're going to present the information. If you have any questions, we'll maybe open up to a Q&A at the end, but I ask you to enter those into the chat so that we can kind of monitor and make sure we get all of our questions answered. So the program, I'll start by giving you the information about the dates. So this program will begin here on campus or wherever you might be during the summer term. So there will be some synchronous and asynchronous distance learning that you'll be required to attend during the month of July. So the dates are listed there. So those dates, those meetings will be set up to kind of get you prepared for the experience, and then to do some debriefing and completion of the work then once you return. And then on July 11th, you'll travel to Anchorage. So the group will actually be traveling independently. So if you do happen to not live in Columbus, you'll be able to kind of purchase your airfare and travel from wherever location you are in the United States. And then on the 20th, you'll return to whatever destination you are coming back to. So the dates that you're required to be in Alaska will be July 11th to the 20th. And then on either end of that will be your asynchronous and synchronous distance learning. Do either of you want to say anything further about the dates or the academic side of things?
No, I think Jenny, you provided a nice summary of really what we'll be doing. So this is, well, in a few slides, we'll be talking about the course enrollment, but it's a 3-hour graded course. And as Jenny mentioned, there'll be some predominantly asynchronous instruction prior to and then post travel.
So what is this program all about? So we're very excited that this is our first US-based global education experience. We have lots of international opportunities for students, but there are lots of opportunities around the United States to explore cultures and economies and environments that are different to our own. So students are going to travel to Alaska to look at the role of culture, education, economy, and the environment on healthcare related issues. So you're going to be doing mostly sort of exploration of the local areas. It's going to be less of a classroom-based experience and more of a sort of experiential education opportunity. You'll also be doing a variety of cultural and sort of touristy experience as well, to give you some of the local flavor and information about Anchorage, about Alaska, and all aspects of the economy and the culture and the education. So maybe I'll hand it over to Lorraine or Stephen to kind of talk about the academic sites and activities.
Sure. So we'll be in Anchorage for approximately 10 full days, and we'll be doing kind of a mix of both academic activities and then also cultural immersion as well. So we are going to be visiting the University of Alaska Anchorage, which is the largest higher education institution in Alaska, visiting their College of Health, their Institute for Circumpolar Health Studies, and then also their WWAMI for School of Medical Education, which is WWAMI is Washington, Wyoming, Alaska, Montana, and Idaho, where there is a program and a family medicine residency in Anchorage. And the photo on the top right hand of the screen is part of the buildings at the University of Alaska Anchorage campus. Is also as part of the course content, we'll be covering health in the circumpolar region of the world, at the top of the world. So beyond even Anchorage, and looking at many of the similarities and related to access to healthcare in these very remote areas of the world. Other things, we'll be looking at the Alaska Department of Health and Social Services, Division of Public Health, Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium Research Service, as well as in downtown Anchorage. And then we're also planning on visiting 2 hospitals and clinical settings. And again, much of this will depend upon current COVID situations, but we're hopeful by July this will be a possibility. And then plan cultural activities. So we'll be staying in a hotel in central Midtown Anchorage, very walkable community. We'll be looking at museums in the area, the Anchorage Museum, the newly renovated and greatly expanded upon Alaskan Native Heritage Center, Alaska Veterans Museum as well. We also have 3 either half day or full day excursions just outside of Anchorage. The first being Girdwood, which is actually part of the greater Anchorage metropolitan area, just south of Anchorage. We'll be visiting the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center, which is excellent. You can also be visiting a Crow Creek gold mine. We'll be have dinner at a salmon bake as well. So that'll be a half day excursion. We also have a day excursion to the north in Talkeetna, Alaska. We'll be visiting historical state mine for the day. So it's about 100 miles north of Anchorage. We have a coach bus return for our group. Other things, so we'll be going, our other full day excursion is to Whittier and then also Prince William Sound, which will be taking a chartered coach and train to Whittier. And this is really wonderful scenery from Anchorage to Whittier. And we will be on a 2 to 3 hour glacier cruise in Prince William Sound, which really should be, July is a wonderful time to do this tour. Other things that I will mention is that we will have 1 full day, a free day for students to pursue things that they'd like to do. There are many trailheads right from within, perhaps a quarter mile from our hotel, many different things you perhaps would like to do. I'm planning on hopefully golfing in Anchorage, and will encourage students if they'd like to join me to do so. Stephen, I don't know if you want to add anything else.
I just want to add that, Dr. Wallace and I have both this educational piece, which focuses on healthcare. But since we're also in a part of the world that a lot of people don't get to travel to, we've included in things so that you can also get to see the scenery, so that you have a really good cultural experience too, and get a good feel for this part of the United States. And just to add to what Dr. Wallace said, so circumpolar, so think of the Arctic Circle and think of all the countries that touch it. So that includes Russia, Finland, Canada, and so those are the things that we'll be focusing on in the course.
Right, and one other key thing to keep in mind, so Alaska at this time of the year, probably close to about 18 hours of sunlight. So it'll be very different than what we're used to in the Midwest.
So in addition to the actual experience and going on the trip, there will be a course that you will register for and take, just as you know our traditional education abroad courses. So once you're admitted to the program, you will register for MedCall 4790. That will be a 3-hour graded course, and it will be your summer 2022 registration. So I'll talk a little bit more about the program fee in a minute. But you will have a program fee with this course, as well as the 3 hours of credit for the course that you will register for. And we'll provide more instructions on how to get registered and make sure you're registered for the appropriate course once you're admitted to the program. So while you're there, you're going to stay in shared rooms in a hotel style accommodation. The hotel was mentioned earlier. Included in your program fee will be all of your meals at a variety of local establishments. So it will be a combination of group meals where you'll eat together at selected restaurants, and then there will be some opportunities for you to kind of branch out and choose a restaurant where you would also like to eat. So all the meals are included in the program fee, and you'll take breakfast at the hotel every morning. Other program costs that you'll want to consider. So you'll have your in the program fee, which is to be determined. We're still working on that. Will be your accommodation, all your meals, your program related field trips, and in-country transportation. You'll also have your tuition for the 3 hours that you'll need to pay, and those fees will be included on your statement of fees and accounts. So you'll make those payments directly to the university, just as you would any other university payment. Some other out-of-pocket expenses that you'll need to consider. So your domestic airfare. So wherever you're flying from, you'll need to take into account the airfare that it will cost to get there. Any travel-related expenses like luggage, or if you need to update your driver's license so that you can use it to travel. Personal expenses, clothing, souvenirs. If you choose to go out for ice cream, or have a coffee or go out at night while you're there, then those additional expenses will be out of pocket. There will also be a $150 application fee, and then a $50 administrative fee. So if you, once you apply, you'll submit your application fee. If you are not admitted to the program, or for some reason the program is canceled, that application fee will be refunded to you. And then also, as we all know, COVID is still affecting our ability to send students abroad and is impacting travel still. So currently, there are no requirements to take a COVID test before getting on that plane back from Alaska to, your home state or home city. But should you test positive while you're in Alaska and are not able to get on the plane, if there are any post-program quarantine expenses, they will also be out of pocket as well. So while you don't have to test to get on the plane, if symptoms do appear while you're there and you take a test and you're required to quarantine, then anything after the program will be an out-of-pocket expense. So scholarships, as Stephen mentioned in the beginning, because this is an OIA sponsored program, you will be able to use your STEP funds to support it. There are some other scholarships on the OIA website. Typically, these are geared more towards international experiences, but there may be some that you can apply for for domestic travel. But certainly your STEP funding can support this experience. Financial aid is also available. So because you will still be registered as an Ohio State student, you will be able to access financial aid. So, you know, kind of meeting with the financial aid office to discuss how the increased cost of attendance might impact your financial aid package is recommended. Program eligibility. So you have to have at least a 2.5 GPA and have completed 2 semesters of undergraduate education to participate in the program. At this point, there's no requirements, COVID requirements or vaccination requirements to travel domestically. But, you know, as we all know, that can change. We will keep you posted as to, you know, potentially state by state, they are going to enact rules as to whether or not you need to have a COVID test or a vaccination or a booster to travel. So we will keep you updated on those as we become aware of them. As far as the application, so if any of you have ever applied for one of our international experiences, the application is similar to that. So you'll go on to our website, oia.osu.edu, and you can search for the programs and find this program. At the bottom of the page, there will be an Apply Now button, so you can submit an application. The deadline is February 15th. So anybody who has submitted an application by that date will be considered for the program. Once you submit your application, you'll have to pay the $150 application fee. In addition to sort of the information like GPA and major, minor, address, contact details, you will have to answer 3 personal questions. They're kind of geared to, you know, make you think about why you would like to participate in this program, why you selected this program over any others, how you intend to be a good ambassador of Ohio State while you travel. You know, while we don't want 10 pages of answer to those questions, we do ask you to kind of think very critically and carefully about them and make sure that, you know, you're kind of putting your best foot forward. You know, I tell students that, you know, aside from your GPA and your major, minor, these questions are really kind of the bulk of what we use to assess whether or not you'll be a good fit for the program, for the group. Notification of admission will likely come sometime at the end of February, and it will come in an email form. At that point, we'll send you further instructions on, you know, next steps. There will be some meetings prior to departure, so we will meet with you as a group before the end of spring semester to talk through any things you need to be thinking about or things you need to prepare for. And then also how to register for the course or what course exactly to register for. Now, as far as COVID-19, so certainly, you know, COVID-19 is very much impacting our ability to send students on international experiences. Right now, while we don't foresee that it will impact our ability to send students on a domestic experience, that can change, as we all know, very quickly. So we are proceeding with caution, but it is possible that, you know, if COVID becomes a problem within Alaska or within the United States in general, that we may not be able to send students. But at this point, we are all systems go for this program. And again, we'll keep you posted as to, you know, when we know more information about any plans that need to change. I'm going to stop sharing. So I do have one question. It is, let me just get out of this. It is, will we take attendance to record for the STEP PDCs? And I will definitely do that once we end the webinar. So yes.
Yeah,
Are there any other questions?
I answered the other 2 questions. I typed in the answers there. Yeah.
For some reason, I can't see them.
Oh, it's under, it's under.
Oh, you answered them.
I answered them, yeah. Okay. And I assumed you were going to take the attendance thing for STEP, but I didn't want to answer for you.
Yep. What's the most fun part of the trip? It's the next question.
Well, Nicholas, I would have to say traveling with me and Lorraine Wallace, fun part of the trip. And I'm sure that's why you signed up, because our reputation precedes us. Yeah, I mean, I'll let Dr. Wallace pipe in too, but I would just say, you know, going to a state, it's like kind of like going to Hawaii. Like most mainland Americans do not travel to Alaska and Hawaii. And so plane ride, you know, I've been there myself. And there are moments when I sort of have to remind myself, like, oh, I'm still in the United States, because you kind of, you just because of the distance traveled, sometimes you feel like you're in a foreign country. But I mean, it's a very different way of living up there, because the elements in nature are such a big part of life in Alaska.
Right. Thanks so much, Stephen. So I think, you know, this is, there's also another question in the chat box about kind of what was the most, you know, memorable experience from students. This is the very first time that this program will be offered in July. So, you know, I think a few things. I mean, just the, you know, I think we're doing a very nice mix of both the academic and then also the more cultural immersion when we're in the greater Anchorage area. So it's often, it's a different, completely different climate, different lifestyle. It's a very outdoors. So I've been in contact professionally. There is a professor at the University of Alaska Anchorage who is a faculty member in their department, in their engineering college. And so she's lived up in Anchorage now for about a decade, and, you know, gave me a lot of feedback as well as to, you know, types of things that we should pursue, that kind of getting more of a local feel. So, you know, as I mentioned about the 18 hours of daylight, so it's Dr. Jenny Brock. So she told me last month that in general, our window is generally some of the best weather in Anchorage for the year. So you'll have a lot of time to kind of do exploration. So we have several very full days planned, but some days, for example, we may have, you know, academic activities from, you know, maybe 9 to 2, and then you'll have the rest of the afternoon and evening to yourselves. So, you know, there's a lot to do, just the ocean, the scenery. It's a very, very unique place.
And I'll add, I know that Stephen was kidding when he said traveling with he and Dr. Wallace, but Ohio State is a big place, so students don't often get, you know, sort of time face to face with faculty and staff that they can sort of, you know, ask questions or sort of develop you know, a relationship with outside of the classroom. So I think that that's another incentive for students. And, you know, I know that both of these you know, people that will be traveling with you have written recommendations for students in the past for, you know, graduate school or for other opportunities or jobs. So it is a good opportunity to kind of, you know, develop a connection with faculty and staff on campus too. So.
Yeah, and there are a couple of questions coming in asking about what have students said in the past about their takeaway experience, and then about what's been the normal cost for the Alaska trip. So this is a brand new endeavor. So we haven't done this particular program before. Dr. Wallace is led, and I'm co-leading with her. We've gone to Estonia and Finland, but this is a new endeavor for us. So Jenny and her team are working on getting those exact costs. And again, the sort of the takeaway experience, having been there myself, is really getting to experience a different part of the United States. And also in the Q&A, there's a question about what to expect to learn from the Alaska Department of Health and Social Services. So just learning on how they manage healthcare in Anchorage, the largest city in Alaska, but then just sort of throughout the state, which is extremely large and for the most part, extremely remote. So dealing with extreme weather conditions, you know, they have, you know, we've heard more recently, especially those of you who are in public health, about the social determinants of health. What are they there? What are they for the Native population in particular? And so just, again, learning about healthcare in an area of the United States that most folks would normally not think about, and what are the special circumstances that they deal with there, how is healthcare delivered, how are people insured, and so forth.
And going back to the program fee, we're working on getting it all pulled together with collecting quotes from travel agents. So as soon as we have that information, I will, one, get it up on the website and also send it out to students who have attended these sessions or expressed interest. So I'm hopeful that in the next few weeks, we will have some information to share with you. If we do get to the application deadline and we don't yet have a program fee set, typically what we do is extend the deadline. We don't like to ask students to apply for a program that they don't sort of know in advance what the cost is going to be. So.
Right. So just to keep in mind, as we mentioned, this is a brand new program, but the program fee will be all inclusive. So excluding your domestic airline ticket, right? So the actual program will include, once you arrive in Anchorage, all of our in-state travel, all of our entry fees, and all of our meals. So, and again, Alaska just being remote, it's expensive, especially for food. But so when you see the program fee, that includes all of our meals. Okay, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner throughout the 10 days that we're there. As far as flights, it's difficult to gauge right now. Flights are relatively reasonable. I'm thinking, depending on where you are in the US, but I would say somewhere perhaps around $700 round trip. So when you're looking at flights to Anchorage, encourage you not to fly through Canada just because of the COVID related issues. So more than likely, Stephen and I will be flying, hopefully, Columbus, Minneapolis, right up into Anchorage. Is probably either Chicago or Minneapolis is really the best route if you are in the Midwest. Now, if we are, probably the most common flight from Anchorage is Seattle to Anchorage. But we'll work with you as well as that, and we'll share our flight itineraries as well with students, and you're welcome to fly with us if that's something that you'd like to do. But there's no immigration to go through when you land in Anchorage. You just leave the airport as you would any other US airport.
Yeah, and just to add to what Dr. Wallace said, the classroom component that we'll do right before we leave and right when we get back, we'll be doing virtual, because we don't want you to have to be here on the Columbus campus if you don't need to be. So, and our program isn't running until July, and the course runs in that final session, that final 4-week session of summer. So wherever you live, you can, be back home, or if you're interning, working, whatever. And so we're not going to require you to come back to Columbus to be in a classroom, or come back to Columbus to do a flight from the Columbus airport out. So wherever you are in the US, you can just make your flight arrangements from there. And
Right.
Alaska is a good airline. I mean, I don't know what they still do. The last time I was there, they pride themselves. They say 20 minutes from landing to like getting your luggage. And so I've never had an airline person in all the traveling I've done come out from around the counter to actually assist me face to face. So I had a very positive service experience with them.
So the other thing that I'll mention is, so when we're actually in Anchorage, in the greater Anchorage area, we will not be doing didactic classroom instruction while we're there. So, this is often for many of you will be a once in a lifetime, experience. And so for these short-term experiences, we will not be in, classroom experiences. So that will be, pre and post, asynchronous.
Yeah, so the way that it works for some of our international experiences that have independent flights is we will bring all the students together once they're admitted. So if you wish to travel with somebody else in the group, you'll have the opportunity to kind of connect with people and decide if you'd like to travel with them. Also, because you're not flying as a group, there's opportunity to arrive early or to stay a little bit longer if you would like to in Alaska. Obviously the program dates are, the program fee covers those dates that were mentioned. But if you wish to stay a little bit longer or arrive a little bit earlier, there's opportunity to do that as well. there any other questions? Oh, there's one. How large is the group allowed to be? So how many do you plan on taking?
That's hard to tell. I mean, I'd say perhaps 20 students.
Yeah, I agree. And again, Dr. Wallace and Jenny and I will look at like what the total number of applications are and you know, how many our sites can accommodate. But 20 is kind of a typical number.
And while we're faculty and staff in the College of Medicine, the program is open to all students at Ohio State, regardless of their major. And so when we've done other programs, we've had, you know, students that, you know, just perhaps have an interest, but, you know, we've had music education majors in our other program, actuary science. So really, all students are welcome, and there's no prerequisites for the course and our program.
When can we expect to hear back about the status of our application? So if all goes as planned and the application deadline falls on February 15th, it typically is about a 2-week turnaround time from when we evaluate the applications to when you'll hear a letter of notification of whether or not you've been admitted to the program.
Yeah, we'll work hard to review those applications, you know, as soon as they come in. And, you know, you'll know several weeks, probably at least 2 to 3 weeks before spring break.
Yeah, and that'll give you time for those of you who are currently in STEP to get that in for your proposal to meet that April 1st submission, but your faculty mentor probably wants you to maybe submit a draft in February or March, and you'll be okay.
We'll also, once we establish the program fee, there will be a budget worksheet that will go along with the program. So I know that that is part of, one, it's good for financial aid if you do need to meet with them, but it's also good for your STEP application to submit in support of that as well. Any other questions? Well, I have nothing further. I don't know if Dr. Wallace or Stephen, if you have anything further to add.
First, thanks so much for your interest in attending this afternoon. And secondly, please feel free to reach out to the 3 of us with any questions that you have, you know, regarding the application, the program activities, financing, you know, any questions. We're very eager to help students.
Yeah,
So
echo what Dr. Wallace said, and it's great. I mean, it's the first week back and you're already actively doing something. So kudos. And it's probably because you're stuck in your residence hall because I understand the dining commons have closed. But whatever your reason is, we appreciate your being here with us this afternoon.
So we'll hang out here until everybody is gone if anybody thinks of any further questions, but that's the end of the presentation. And again, if you know, please feel free to reach out to us if you have any further questions.